Here we go. Welcome back to the channel. Don't forget to hit like and subscribe button. Here we have another crazy story. Bad boy. What you gonna do? What you gonna do when they come for you? I know what they're gonna do. They're gonna go to jail. Imagine that. That's all they're gonna do is go to jail. That's it.
Straight out of a crime thriller. Picture this. Rod Diggs allegedly had one of his associates go undercover in the most extreme way. Wig, lipstick, makeup, the whole 9 yards, just to get close to a target he wanted. And get this, the associate even claimed that Rod Diggs himself had used this disguise method before to carry out hits. But honestly, that's just scratching the surface of Rod Diggs' criminal history. The stuff he got into was so hardcore that he ended up with not 1, not 2, but 3 life sentences plus an extra 105 years tacked on for good measure.
Rod Diggs got 3 life sentences.
Rod Diggs, he was the man. Big homie of the big homies. I mean, you would think that after 3 life sentences plus whatever he got, he would have changed, but nope. They said Rod Diggs, he's the same man. He's just a little bit older now. Not only is he older now, they say he's bragging about the crimes that he did. It's a terrible thing.
You heard about this?
I actually seen it on, I think it was on your website yesterday, and I was like, and I feel bad.
And where is he serving this mind-boggling sentence?
ADX.
In none other than the infamous ADX Florence, the Supermax prison often dubbed the Alcatraz of the Rockies. Now, if you're not familiar, this place is notorious for housing the worst of the worst. Terrorists, cartel leaders, gang bosses.
Bad boy. What you gonna do? What you gonna do when they come for you? They say Rod Diggs, when he was on the streets, he was feared. He was notorious for doing all type of criminal activities. That's why he was feared. So you could have put a person like Rod Diggs anywhere else but in the ADX, unfortunately.
And all sorts of high-profile criminals. It's a place where even hardened criminals have a tough time. A facility where they say death might be easier than living out your days there.
In an exclusive
Imagine
interview,
that.
a former warden and a former inmate tell us death is easier than life at the federal Supermax.
It is as isolated as the prisoners who call it home. The prison, called ADX
Imagine
Florence,
that.
is a tomb for the living.
To me, it's life after death.
So what exactly did
So unfortunately, that's how Rod Diggs is. That's how he's living right now. I mean, that's how he's living right now. He's basically, you know, I'll be honest. He's living like an animal. He is. Told what to do, when to do it, how to do it. Imagine that. Bad boy, what you gonna do? What you gonna do when they come for you? You just have to go to jail, that's it. It's a terrible thing. Is it worth being a bad boy
Diggs do
anymore?
to land himself in such a hellhole? Let's dive in deeper.
I think Rod Diggs, knowing the individual he is, I think he understood what comes with it. If he was engaged in that, I think he was prepared for the outcome of his activities.
Ronald Herron, better known as Rod Diggs, was born in 1982 and grew up in Gowanus projects of Brooklyn, New York, a place that's seen a lot of change due to gentrification. But back then, it was a rough area to navigate. Surrounded by crime and violence, Rod Diggs...
I say it so many times, I keep on saying it. The projects are so similar to the prison system, meaning the jails, the brick walls. So it's fair to say Rod Diggs, he basically left from one apartment to the next. That was it. It's a terrible thing.
found himself caught up in the streets early on, getting involved with criminal activities and eventually joining the Bloods. His adolescence was a revolving door of correctional facilities, setting the stage for the reputation he would go on to build.
I was brought up toting slammers, like, so Bill had to be extra tight. You feel me? Like,
in September 1998, things took a dark turn when
He's Blood, gang member, just like La Brim, Blood gang members. All these Blood gang members do is go to jail for life. That's it. Imagine that. That's it. Imagine that.
in Wyckoff Gardens, a nearby project, left an innocent bystander. Just 2 years later, on October 7th, 2000, Rod Diggs himself was shot in the leg during a dispute over a drug debt. But Rod Diggs wasn't the type to let something like that slide. While recovering at Kings County Hospital, he orchestrated a retaliation hit on his shooter, carried out by his cousins. This act only cemented his reputation for violence. He even bragged about it in a song with Uncle Murda on the G.
Imagine that. Imagine having your cousin commit a crime for you. Don't forget, Rod Diggs, he said he learned how to be violent from his uncles. Imagine that. Now he's teaching his cousin how to be violent. Imagine that. Are they violent? Is it a violent family? I don't know. Could be.
Beat first slowed down, spitting lines like, "I don't respect the shooter because he shot me in the legs," and 2 days later, the little homie was dead. See, if he was smart, he would have shot me in the head because I could get you shot from a hospital bed.
Bad man.
That was just the beginning. In 2001, Rod Diggs found himself facing a charge for killing Frederick Brooks, an alleged rival dealer.
On June 16,
2001, Brooks was gunned down in the lobby of 198 Bond Street, shot multiple times in the face, neck, back, and head. The crime scene was brutal, leaving Brooks to bleed out on the floor. Rod Diggs...
Now you understand better who Rod Diggs is. Even today, everyone say Rod Diggs, he's the big homie of the big homie. No one could say anything good about Rod Diggs. Only thing they could say about Rod Diggs is that he was violent and he was feared. That's it. That's why he had no choice but to go to the ADX. They say if he went anywhere else, he would have controlled the prisons. Because he's a big homie of the big homies.
Along with members of his Bloods crew, took steps to dispose of the firearm used in... But it wasn't long before the authorities caught up with him. By July 2001, he was arrested and put on trial in New York State Criminal Court. The prosecution claimed to have two key eyewitnesses, let's call them Witness A and Witness B.
Okay.
Both had given recorded statements to the assistant district attorney, identifying Rod Diggs as the shooter who took Brooks' life. They even picked him out of a police lineup. But when it came time to testify...
Don't forget, these individuals like Rod Diggs, for example, unfortunately, when they unalive individuals, they brag about it. They say, So, most likely he did it.
Things took a shocking turn. Both witnesses recanted their statements, claiming they'd been threatened by Rod Diggs and his associates. Another witness, Witness C, testified that he saw Rod Diggs arguing with Brooks before following them into the lobby. There, he witnessed Rod Diggs push Brooks against the mailboxes, pull out a silver gun, and shoot him. Despite this, Witness C knew that testifying against Rod Diggs was a death sentence, so he lied about his role in the murder. Yet another witness, Witness D, also saw the murder but refused to identify Rod Diggs on the stand out of fear for his life. The level of influence Rod Diggs wielded in his community was undeniable, and it paid off. He walked away from the case acquitted, later bragging about beating the body.
Bro, he had beaten... Yeah, beating a murder case. Yeah, beating a murder case. He murder case and he was out.
But this wasn't the end of his run-ins with the law. Throughout the early 2000s, Rod Diggs...
Don't forget, I'm not trying to be funny in any way, shape, or form, but he's a bad boy. What you gonna do? What you gonna do when they come for you? But it's not just, it's not just him alone. A whole lot of these individuals, it's like committing crimes. That's all they know how to do. Imagine that. That's all they know how to do.
Continued to build up his blood set, known as the Murderous Mad Dogs, using 423 Baltic Street in Brooklyn as his base of operations. His crew was involved in everything from drug dealing to extortion, robbery, and even murder. Rod Diggs was briefly locked up for drug but managed to maintain control of his enterprise from behind bars. When he was released in July of 2007, he didn't slow down. In fact, he had a new vision for expanding his empire. However, the streets don't stay quiet for long. In 2007, a local drug dealer referred to in court documents as John Doe was selling crack in the same projects that Rod Diggs operated. Not one to tolerate competition, Rod Diggs ordered 2 of his men to rob John Doe. They caught him in a building lot.
Now you have a better understanding why he's a bad boy. What you gonna do? What you gonna do when they come for you? All you gonna do is sit down and relax in your jail cell. That's it. They say Rod Diggs, all he's doing is sitting down 23 hours a day. That's it. Was it worth it? I will never know. I mean, you know what? I don't know, but was it worth it? 23 hours a day? I don't know.
And despite an attempt by a friend of John Doe to intervene, one of Raw Diggs' guys pulled a pistol while the other emptied John Doe's pockets, taking between $600 to $700 in cash.
Poor people.
After the robbery, Raw Diggs confronted John Doe on the 12th floor, warning him to stop selling drugs in his territory. John Doe took a break for a few months but eventually came back, this time asking Raw Diggs for permission to sell. Raw granted it, but only under the condition that John Doe would buy his product directly from him.
Rod Diggs is a bad man. He said, what? Okay, you know what? I'm not planning on getting a job anytime soon, so you know what? I need money. I'm just talking. Unbelievable.
Eventually became a key player in Raw Diggs' operation, supervising deliveries from suppliers and dispersing the drugs to street dealers. In early May 2008, things started heating up for Raw Diggs when a guy named Richard Russo made some not-so-nice comments about him. Russo was hanging out in the lobby of 423 Baltic Street with some members of Raw's crew
in the
who
project
were busy selling drugs. Russo, feeling bold, started questioning Raw's authority in Gowanus and even went as far as to threaten his life. Well,
I mean, he's saying why he got to be the big homie for all the big homies. I mean, what could he do that nobody else could do? Imagine that. Rod Diggs said, you know what? I know what I could do what no one else could do. I could throw my life away right now. Is anybody else willing to throw their lives away right now? They said no. Rod Diggs said exactly. And that's why I'm the big homie of the big homies.
Out to be a big mistake. Just a few days later, on May 9th, 2008, Raw Diggs decided to confront Russo in the same lobby. He walked up to him, told him to get in the elevator with another member of his crew, and once inside, he shot and K-worded Russo right there. To cover his tracks, Raw handed out some cash to one of his guys, making sure they kept their mouths shut and disposed of the firearm used in the murder. But Russo wasn't the only one on Raw's hit list. There was another guy named Kendall Robinson, also known.
I mean, you know you're a bad man when you have a hit list. Imagine that. You can't be a bad man without a hit list. That's what I'm saying. That's why they had to send Rod Diggs to the ADX. No one has any idea how long his hit list was. Imagine that. He said, you know what, I got this one, I got the next one, I got the next one. Imagine that. When did he find the time? I have no idea. But he has all the time in the world right now. They say he's in the jail cell at least 23 hours. Imagine that every day.
Smurf, who had been involved in a series of violent incidents around the block where Raw was running his business. These incidents were messing with Raw's money, and he wasn't about to let that slide. So he and one of his goons started hunting Robinson. On September 13th, 2008, one of Raw's hitters found Robinson and shot him in front of 185 Nevin Street with a .40 caliber gun. Robinson survived, but it was clear that Raw was sending a message. Even though Raw wasn't there for the shooting, other members of his crew were making sure the job was done. Just to give you an idea of the level of menace these guys were dealing with, Kendall Robinson, at only 21 years old, would later be sentenced to life without parole in 2013 for executing a 16-year-old girl. This girl, Altia Conyers, had pressed assault charges against one of Robinson's homies, and she refused to drop them even after the guy was locked up. In retaliation, Robinson shot her 3 times as she was trying to escape, then stood over her.
Don't forget, these gang members, they're brutal. So brutal. They're notorious. That's why they invented the ADX for individuals like these. These individuals don't value life. They don't value anything at all. Only thing they value is money. Imagine that. They're so greedy. Imagine being greedy. But that's what's going on, Rod Diggs. That's what's going on all these individuals. They were doing all these things for pennies on the dollar, for crumbs. Crumbs got them in jail forever. It really did. It really did.
She begged for her life and put 3 more bullets into her head and face. Fast forward to November 2008, and Raw's crew got into another beef, this time with a group selling drugs in the Wyckoff Gardens projects. One of Raw's people was selling crack there when a guy named Victor Zapata told her she couldn't sell there anymore. Raw's partner, George Meha, decided to confront Zapata, but things didn't go as planned. On November 9th, 2008, Meha was shot about 5 times during the confrontation. Rod and his crew were furious and even recorded a meeting while Meha was recovering in the hospital, where they planned their next move.
Individuals
the video titled Project Music was posted on YouTube as an extended part of the music video, but it's since been deleted. On December 23rd, 2008, one of Raw's hitters was arrested with a loaded .22 caliber gun and body armor while trying to run from the police. Rod managed to avoid getting caught that time, but the heat was definitely on. Then on
Heat
September
is on.
27th, 2009, Rod finally caught up with Zapata, the guy who had shot Meja. He found him in the Wyckoff Gardens courtyard, walked him down, and...
Imagine that. Rod Diggs, he's a bad man. You can't feel sorry for individuals like this right here. Because even though Rod Diggs, he's locked up right now, I told you he hasn't changed. Only thing that changed about him is his age. He just got a little older. But he's still talking about crimes. He's still saying I'm the big homie of the big homies. I heard him say it.
him multiple times, K-wording him. Just a few days later, on October 1st, 2009, Ra and one of his homies were arrested in a BMW that had been double parked on a crowded street. The cops found a loaded 9mm gun with 10 rounds of ammunition in the car, and it looked like the gun had been discharged recently. Around the same time, but not revealed until later during Ra's court case in 2014, there was a story that Ra Diggs had been kicked out of one of Jim Jones' studio sessions in New York. According to testimony from Ra's driver, Jim Jones was not too happy about Ra bringing that Bloods-ish into his session and told him to take it outside. Ra didn't take kindly to that, and after leaving the studio and breaking the glass door on his way out, he and his goons tracked down Jim Jones later that night. They found him at a strip club in Mount Vernon called Sue's Rendezvous. When Ra walked into the club, the DJ announced his arrival and Jim Jones looked like he'd seen a ghost, quickly making his exit. Ra later spoke about the incident in an interview, basically letting everyone know that, yeah, things were cool now, but he did pull up on them that night. One of the most ridiculous arrests came when Ra got arrested for something as minor as littering. He dropped a gum wrapper on the ground and a cop walked up to cite him for it.
Try and
But
get
then
that
the cop
fingerprint.
noticed that Ra was wearing body armor. The cop later said, "I've stopped hundreds of people in my career, and he's the first person I've seen wearing body armor." Ra got subpoenaed.
So that's what's going on with Ra Diggs right there. He was, not only was he a criminal, notorious trigger puller, he was scared of his own shadows. He was walking around with body armors. Imagine that. He didn't want anyone to do to him what he did to others. Imagine that. He didn't want to feel it. They say, I don't know a lot. Only thing I do know is crime don't pay. When you get a chance, go check out part 2 of this video. Ra Diggs. Why he's in ADX. Does he really need to be there? Let's check out the rest of the story. And let me know in the comment section what you think. Check out part 2.